Greetings friends, it's me, Wayman. Welcome to Religion Think. And this is a video going out to Truth Seeker 333 and his video, the Deist Challenge. And I apologize, you seemed a little perturbed in this video, and I could probably understand why in some ways. But I think what you mentioned and the difference between being behind the fence of religion and being in the open pastures is that my world does not come crashing down if the documentary hypothesis is true or not. Many belief systems, if their ideas are true or false, would come crashing down. And we've seen this happen on video. So that's the difference. And as new research presents itself, I could change my mind. And there was almost a guy who did that when I was reading a text on the Canaanite and Ugaritic literature. I'll post the title of it in the detail section over there, where he offered up some really good points against the documentary hypothesis, which almost changed my mind. Meaning almost that in Canaanite literature, such as it is written and translated on one tablet, it appears that stories are repeated over and told in different ways by the same hand. So this guy supposed that possibly this is what happened in the biblical literature, which is the best that I have heard. However, nobody addresses fully the claims put forth by Friedman. So since this is the best hypothesis, I'm going to stick with this for a little while until something better comes up. And I'm just going to give an example. He lists 7 examples, 7 headings with multiple examples in each on why this is a good hypothesis. So what he says right off the bat is, whatever position one takes on this matter, it should be based on evidence, not on humorous disdain for the positions of others. And the evidence in support of the documentary hypothesis is substantial. So we go down to number 1, he has linguistics. The development of Hebrew that we observe through successive periods indicates that the Hebrew of J and E comes from the earliest stage of biblical Hebrew. The Hebrew of P comes from a later stage of the language, and the Hebrew of the Deuteronomistic text comes from still a later stage of the language. And P comes from an earlier stage of Hebrew than the Hebrew of Ezekiel, which comes from the time of Babylonian. How do they get this? See, I gotta get myself in the camera here. This chronology of the language of the sources has been confirmed through comparisons with extra-biblical Hebrew texts. The characteristics of early Hebrew have been confirmed through comparison with pre-exilic inscriptions discovered through archaeology. So, something that the religious apologists miss. They don't address archaeology. The characteristics of late Hebrew have been confirmed through comparisons with the Dead Sea Scrolls and other later sources. Despite the power of this evidence, it is practically never mentioned by those who oppose the documentary hypothesis. So, along with this guy, I'm still waiting. Terminology. This is under heading number 2. Remember, he has 7. Certain words and phrases occurs disproportionately and sometimes only in one source but not in others. The quantity of these terms that consistently belong to a particular source is considerable. For example, the mountain that is called Sinai in J and P 20 times is called Horeb, or the mountain of God, in E and D 14 times. There are no exceptions to this distinction. The phrase, the place where Yahweh sets his name, or the place where Yahweh causes his name to dwell, occurs 10 times in D, but never in J, E, or P. The phrase, with all your heart and with all your soul, occurs 9 times, and all are in the writer D. The phrase gathered to his people as a euphemism for death occurs 11 times, and all 11 are in P. The phrase be fruitful and multiply occurs 12 times, all in P. The word congregation occurs over 100 times in the Torah, all in P. The term to know, as a euphemism for sex, occurs 5 times in J, but never in the other sources. The term for Sheol, identifying the place where the dead, occurs 6 times in J, but never in the other sources. The term to suffer occurs 7 times, and all 7s are in J. There are hundreds of other occurrences of the terms that connect only to one source or another. And then for heading 3, he says consistent content. Number 4, the continuity of the narrative. Number 5, connections with other parts of the Bible. And he has another one on page 48. But he has a book out, 2 books out, Who Wrote the Bible, and another one, The Bible with Sources Revealed. It's a good text. So that's why I believe that stuff. But my world is not going to come crashing down, and I really hope somebody disproves this, because it'll allow me to understand the biblical literature much better. And to say that, there isn't any pagan influences in the literature, there are. Mot, term for death in Hebrew, is the god of death in Canaanite, Mot. The god Yam, god of the sea. Yam is the Hebrew word for sea. Shamash, the Babylonian sun god, is Hebrew for sun in the Hebrew language. And some Canaanite hymns are transformed into hymns to Yahweh in the Psalms. So it's pretty interesting. So you have to go back and look at the language, archaeology, and all that, rather than just using theology. And I do understand that there is a theological history, but that's not really what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is the research on how all this developed. Also, you mentioned the Gospel of Q. You kind of hinted at that. That has very good evidence because we have the Book of Thomas with the sayings of Jesus. So there very well could have been sayings of Jesus floating around, since we have that text. And also, you talked about the Markian priority. I'm a big hero of. Well, I was a hero. I'm starting to lead towards the Lukian priority. So, again, I looked outside after I read this stuff. The world didn't come crashing down on me, but they had some pretty good. They had some pretty good hypothesis on the Lukian priority. So nothing is stationary, and I think Raymond E. Brown, The Birth of the Messiah, on page 523, since Raymond Brown is a Christian apologetic, though very liberal, he didn't look hard enough to find virgin births through male sexual intercourse or through some substitute of penetration, as you put there. He didn't look that far. So I'll put that stuff in the details section over there also. But yes, but all I'm saying is, if you choose to stay on the fence, you have an opinion, and we listen to you on here, but I don't know why you'd be upset. Why are you pushing through the fence when you're upset that you have to stay in there? This whole thing is fluid, and I really think that it's helped me out a lot to see to actually be able to read biblical literature in a whole nother light that I would have never have read it in a religious setting. So take care, friends, and remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.